Hello again.
Hi.
This is segment number 3 of Paradise Lost for Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, we don't say that cynically. We just want to make the point that according to the method by which they distort or appropriate the scriptures of Isaiah, which we're talking explicitly about in the next few videos, they steal the paradise promises from Israel and put them, of course, into the promise list for the great crowd. They didn't do that before J.F. Rutherford's presidency. So today we want to look at some of the ways they use the text in Isaiah specifically to, they think, predict paradise in a spiritual sense for today for Jehovah's Witnesses, and especially the way they use them in a dualistic way. That is, they spiritualize what they want and they take literally what they want from the same text oftentimes. Starting with Isaiah chapter 2, verses 1 to 5.
So I will read them. Isaiah 2, 1 to 5. The thing that Isaiah, the son of Amos, visioned concerning Judah and Jerusalem. And it must occur in the final part of the days that the mountain of the house of Jehovah will become firmly established above the top of the mountains, and it will certainly be lifted up above the hills. And to it all the nations must stream. And many peoples will certainly go and say, Come, you people, and let us go up to the mountain of Jehovah, to the house of the God of Jacob. And he will instruct us about his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion law will go forth, and the word of Jehovah out of Jerusalem. And he will certainly render judgment among the nations, and set matters straight respecting many peoples. And they will have to beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning shears. Nation will not lift up sword against nation, neither will they learn war any more. O men of the house of Jacob, come and let us walk in the light of Jehovah.
Well, the Watchtower often criticizes the United Nations for taking one of these verses out of context. It's very ironic they should do that, because usually when the witnesses themselves take these scriptures and put them into their publications, they take verses 2 to 4 as their cue. They leave out verses 1 and 5. So let's revisit verses 1 and 5 specifically. Verse 1 says in the New American Standard Version, the word which Isaiah the son of Amos saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. So you can understand why they would leave out verse 1.
Verse 1, yeah.
And we should then go outside the immediate context, this being one of the rules of correct hermeneutics. Take the verses on either side of the text you're using. Go to one of the secondary rules, which is then go to the broader context and look at what the word itself says about the book of Isaiah as a whole. So you go back to chapter 1 of Isaiah, verse 1, and you read this. The vision of Isaiah, the son of Amos, concerning Judah and Jerusalem, which he saw during the reigns of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah. So the place and the people, that is the where and the who, is addressed right away in the larger context of Isaiah.
Yeah, so you've now got where, when, and who in the context.
Which is another reason they would want to leave off verse 5, because in verse 5 it says, Come, house of Jacob, and let us walk in the light of the Lord, who is the house of Jacob. Jehovah's Witnesses don't usually call themselves by that title. The house of Jacob is the family of Jacob. Yeah. It's the people who were descended from the patriarch Jacob.
And I think they do leave it off because it mentions Jacob, not Israel. Because, they find it easy to say Israel is spiritual Israel. But what are you going to do with the name Jacob? Yes.
But even from the text itself, the part they usually take, 2 to 4, there's enough stumbling blocks right in there if you just believe what you're reading.
Yes, because in those middle verses, he talks about nations, the people streaming to the house of Jehovah, so the temple, to there being more than just the people of Israel, there being nations involved. So they're streaming to the temple, the nations, to the mountain of Jehovah, to the house of the God of Jacob. So again, it's mentioning geographical places and things that relate to the natural Israelites.
Mm-hmm. So I can't help but think of the Lord's Prayer when I read these verses. As familiar as we thought they were when we were Jehovah's Witnesses, the Lord's Prayer says, "Your kingdom come on earth," and somehow links the coming of the kingdom on earth to the name of Jehovah. Mm-hmm. As we remind people when we bring the Lord's Prayer before them in the field service, mm-hmm. somehow the name of the Lord and God's kingdom coming on earth are related. But what's in here for us very emphatically is that it has something to do with Zion. Yes. It has something to do with Jerusalem and the people called Judah.
Yeah, it says, out of Zion, law will go forth, the word of Jehovah out of Jerusalem. And then again it talks about nations, many peoples. So there's more than just God's people around. It's not just, everybody's destroyed and we're the only ones around.
How could we have missed it?
Yeah.
And the truth is because we were not reading scripture scripturally. We were not reading context.
We weren't careful in the way we read the words. You just automatically just skip by things and get to the part that the Watchtower has explained to you, mm-hmm. and believe what they tell you it means. So I would say when we read the Bible, we have to be very methodical. Look at every phrase and word and place and name and believe it.
And remember that you are removed by over 2,000 years from the place and the time we're talking about. So we do need help. Oftentimes in interpreting these difficult portions of Scripture, we need the help of the best teachers.
Yes.
In the next segment, we're going to discuss Isaiah chapter 9, one of the great messianic portions of the Old Testament.